Good morning students. So in the last video we have seen chapter 10 classes and objects. Okay, so we have you know how to create a class and how to create an object. So first class is a keyword and then the class name and then colon operator. Okay, and then you will be having your statements. So that the statements is you can have a variable, a function, looping statements or conditional statements, like that. Anything you can have in your statement. Okay, so how to create an object for a class? So you have to give object name equal to class name and then the open and close parenthesis. Like that only you have to create one object, that is our instance for your class. Okay, so and then we have seen how we can define a function within the class. So by normal, how we are defining a function only, we are going to define a function within the class also, but in the argument you have to give one self you have to give that word. Okay, so that is while calling that function, Python will automatically create one value for that self. Okay, so if though you are not going to have any argument for your function, you have to give that word. Okay, suppose if you are going to have any argument, then you have to give that self and then you have to give comma and then you have to give the arguments what you are going to give. You can give how many arguments you want, you can give. So up to this we have seen in the last video how to create a class, how to create an object, how to create a function with argument and without argument. So next we are going to see constructors and destructor. So this is our constructor and destructor. This is our today topic. That is you can study this constructor topic and destructor topic in the 11th standard in C++ program itself, isn't it? No? So you know very well for what purpose we will be using this, for what purpose we will use this. So these two are function which are called automatically, isn't it? No? So constructor is a function which is called automatically when a object is created for a class, and destructor is also a function which is called automatically when you come out of that class, that is when the class is out of the scope. Okay, so when you come out of that class, the destructor function will be called automatically. So these two are the function which is called automatically. Other than that, they have the same function concept, that they can have arguments, they can have more than one arguments, and how we are accessing the function, the same way this function is also accessed. But the one thing is we no need to call them explicitly. Okay, so they are automatically called. So now let us see how to create one constructor. So for creating constructor, there is a function called init, init, initialization, like that. No, you will say init, that is this function we use for constructor and del for destructor. Okay, so we are using two functions. One is for constructor, that is init, and then for destructor we are using del. Clear? So with this function, how we can create an constructor. So what is the syntax for creating the constructor is, so as how we are defining a function, you have to give def, and then before that this function you have to give two double underscore. Okay, 2 underscore and then init. After this also you have to give 2 underscore. Okay, so before this word also you have to specify 2 underscore, and after this word also you have to specify 2 underscore, and then you can give your argument. So as we are creating for a class, here also it will be having self and then you will be having your arguments. So if you want, you can have your arguments. Without arguments also you can create your constructor as you are creating in a class, right? So definition, double underscore init and then under 2 underscore self and then argument. So like this only, this is the syntax for creating an constructor, and then comes the statements. Okay, so the syntax. So now let us see a Python code with constructor. So let me create a class sample, and then I am having let me create one constructor. So def underscore 2 underscore and then init and then double underscore, and then I am going to give self, and then I am going to give one variable num. Okay. Then and then we have to specify colon. Okay. And then we will be having inside this I am going to write the statements. Suppose I am having within the class, let me have one variable. Okay. Variable is equal to 0. Like this, let me have one variable. So here let me have variable is equal to variable plus 1, and then self dot num is equal to num. Okay, so now I am going to print this. So print value of variable is equal to comma var, and then print value of num is equal to num or self dot num. Okay, so num. Now I have to create one object for the class. So s is equal to sample, and then I am having one argument num. Okay, I need one argument, so I have to give one value. Let me give it as 5. Okay, so now this value will be, so because I have created the object for the class sample, once I have created the object, the constructor will be called automatically, isn't it? No. So now here within the constructor I am having one argument. So for that argument I have to specify one value. So while creating the object itself, I have given the argument value 5. So now this 5 will be passed to this num. So what will be the output? So it has one class variable also. I have variable is equal to variable plus 1. Here I am having one variable, isn't no. So otherwise I can also, for accessing the class variable, we have to specify the class name. So sample dot variable is equal or plus equal to 1. Like this also I can give. So sample dot variable is equal to sample dot variable plus 1. That is the meaning of this, isn't no. So now when I am asked to print the variable, so what it will get print, and then if I now sample dot variable. Okay, and then I am going to print the self dot num is equal to num, that is also going to be printed. So now this 5 is passed to num. So sample dot variable is equal to variable plus 1. Okay, it will have the value 1. Self dot num is equal to num. That means what is the value of num? That is 5. So now it has the value 5. Num has the value 5. So when I am asked to print value of variable is equal to 0 plus 1. So we will be having 1. And next value of num. So value of num is equal to just what value I have passed, it will be printed. Okay, just num has the value what I have given. So 5 is passed to num has the value 5. It has the value 5. So now here it will also has the value 5. So now that 5 value will be printed. So just while creating a constructor, before and after you must specify 2 underscore, and then you are having the same how we are creating a function within a class. It must have the self argument, and then if you are going to specify any argument you can add with it. So I am having here one argument. So as I am having one argument, while creating object itself I have given the value for that argument, as that argument has to be passed to the constructor, because once we create an object for the class, constructor will be called automatically. So you can see I have not explicitly called this function. Isn't no? So this is a constructor process. Clear? Okay. So next we will see destruct. So as I said earlier, init is for constructor method. Like this I am having one function del for destructor. So as how we are specifying the init function, the same thing you have to specify the del function also. So in init function you will be specifying before 2 underscore and after that you will be specifying 2 underscore, isn't no? The same way for when we are creating the destructor using the del method, you have to specify 2 underscore before the del keyword and then after the del word you have to specify 2 underscore. Okay. So the syntax is so definition, define, double underscore, the same thing, and then comes the del and then comes the double underscore and then you have the same self comma arguments. So for destructor also you will be having the self argument and then if you are going to specify any extra arguments you can specify. Clear? So def double underscore del and then 2 underscore and then self comma arguments and then comes your statements. So this is the syntax for creating the del. So the del function is automatically called when you come out of that class scope. Okay. So you have created one class and then you are accessing the members of them using one object and then if you move to the next object. So for a class you can create more than one object, isn't no? So when you are moving to the next object, so we have come out of the first object scope, first class scope, isn't no? At that time destructor will be called automatically. Okay, once your finished the function has called and done the process and if you come out of that process, the destructor will be called automatically. Clear? So let us see a Python code. Let me have one class student colon and then let me have one constructor. So def double underscore init and then come double underscore and then self comma variable. Okay. So self dot variable is equal to var. So let me give print constructor and then let me give print value is equal to comma variable, right? So I am having 3 statements within the constructor. So self dot variable is equal to variable and then print constructor and then print value is equal to variable I have given. Let me create another one destructor. So definition underscore, what is the function? del and then double underscore and then comes the self. Okay. So I can without argument also I can have the destructor. So print destructor is called and then I have to create one object for the class. So therefore s is equal to student and then as I am having here one value I have to give one value. Let me give 10. Clear? So class, I have created one class with class name student and I am having one constructor with init function, okay, init function and then I am having one variable. After the self I am given variable. So self dot variable is equal to just I have assigned it to one variable. So print constructor. So just I want to show that it is a constructor. So that I have given constructor. Print value is equal to the variable value will be printed and then while I have called define the destructor. So using the function del. So before 2 underscore, after underscore and I am having self. So I have not given any argument for the destructor. This is a simple destructor. I have not given any argument, just I am going to print destructor is called. That statement has to be printed. When the statement will get printed? Once you come out of this class scope. So first class S is equal to student 10. So scope of the You have seen the scope of the global variable, scope of local variable and all you have seen. Similarly, a scope of a class. What is the scope of a class? Once the object is used for processing the variables, that is members of the class, that after that accessing the members of the class, it will finish its work. So now the class is out of the scope, isn't it? No. So at that time the destructor will be called. Okay. So S is equal to student. As I have instructor, I am in constructor, as I am having one argument, I have given one value. Now let us see what will be the output. So first print constructor. So S is equal to student 10. So now variable will be having the value 10, this will be having the value 10, and then it is passed here and then it is came here. Okay, value is equal to 10, right? So that's all. Now I have not explicitly called the constructor or destructor. Once I start created an object for that class, constructor will be automatically called. So it has been finished. That's just all. Okay. So just I have printed the constructor and value is equal to 10. With this, other than this, I am not having any process to work. Isn't no? So what I have given, it has worked out. So next, it will come out of the class scope. So now destructor will be called automatically. So in destructor, I have asked to print destructor is called. So that will be alone printed. Clear, students? So constructor and destructor. So once an object is created, constructor is called automatically. In the same way, once it perform all the operations. So using the object, we have performed all the class member variables and member methods. Access the members of the class, then it will stop. So now we have come out of the class, that is we are going to come out of the class. At that time we are out of the class scope. So the destructor will be called automatically. So destructor is called only, I have given in the destructor. Okay, so that line alone is printed. So clear, constructor and destructor with INIT function and destructor is with del function. Okay. So next we will see the another thing, how the members within the class are public and private, how it is performed in Python. Okay. So in C++ you will be having 3 access modifiers, isn't it? No. We will be having 3 access modifiers, that is private, public and protected. So you will be having 3 and you know how they are specified. So in C++ programming you have 3 access specifiers, public, private and protected. So in the last year you have learned C++ programming, you know how to access them and what are all the scope of them. What is the scope of a public variable and what is the scope of the private variable, and if you give a variable as a protected, how long it will have its access. You know. So in Python we are having public and private. So 2 concepts, public and private. So as default we are having the variable as public. Okay. So by default in Python all the variables are public. So if you want to make an variable as private, then what you have to go? You have to specify 2 underscore before that variable. Okay. You have to specify 2 underscore before that variable. Suppose I am having n1 is mark 1 is equal to 5 and mark 2 is equal to mark 1 is equal to 75 and mark 2 is equal to 90. Suppose I want this mark 2 to become as a private variable, then I have to give like this. I have to specify 2 underscore before that variable. Now this is considered as the M2 is the private and this one is the public. So this one is the public variable. If I am having 2 underscore before the variable, then it is called as the private variable. Okay. So we are having in Python 2 public and private access is given in your book. So in your syllabus they have added this to public and private. So before declaring if you want to declare a variable as a private, then it must be denoted with 2 underscore before that variable. Okay. So how we can denote, we have find. So how long its scope will be. So public means it can be used throughout entire the class. enter the program. Okay. So if you are giving private, then it is for only for that particular class alone. Okay. So if you are creating a variable as private in a class as a class variable, then that variable can be accessed only within that class. So if you are accessing the variable outside the class, then it will not be get accessed. Okay. So if you are declaring a variable as a private within a class, it is only accessible within the class. So now let us see on program in Python how variables are public and private. So class student, let me have two variables. Okay. So m1 is equal to or let me get the value at the run mode. Okay. So then I am going to have class and then I am going to have one student. So let me have two variables alone. So definition sum self comma n1, okay, m1 comma m2. So I am going to get two m1 comma m2. So self dot m1, okay, is equal to m1 self dot. So now I am going to declare this variable as a private variable. So I have to give double underscore and then m2 is equal to m2. Okay. So now I have created two variables, right? Self dot m1 is equal to m2 and self dot double underscore m2 is equal to m2. Let me print the values. So print mark 1 equal to comma self dot n1, sorry, m1, and print mark 2 equal to self dot m2. Okay. So here I have to give self dot double underscore m2 because it is a private variable. Okay. So within this I have finished my class. So I am having two variables within a function sum. So self is equal to m1 and double underscore m2 I have created as m1 and m2. So now let me have one object for the class. So s is equal to student. So now I have created one object for the class student. So next suppose I am going to access these two variables outside the class. Okay. So print outside the class now I am going to print the values. So print mark 1 is equal to comma. So what I have to use that one? So first I have to call this function. So before that let me have, so s dot student, s is equal to student, I have to call the function. So function is sum. So s dot sum, and then I have to give two argument values. So let me have 90 and 95. Okay. So I have created one object s for the class sum, and then I am calling this for the student class. I have created one object and I am calling the function sum with two arguments. So I have given two values. Next I am having outside the class. So print mark 1 is equal to m1 and then print mark 2 is equal to m2, that is s dot m1 and s dot double underscore m2. Okay. So let us see what will be the output for this program. So I have created one class student, class within the, so indentation within that I have created one function with 2 arguments. So one variable has been declared as a public. By default it will be public. So I have given for another variable 2 underscore before that. It means it acts as a private variable. Just I am printing the value of the 2 variable. So I have created one object for the class and then I am accessing the function within the class using s.sum. As I am having 2 values, I have passed 2 values. So let us see what will be the output for it. So output, so first s is equal to student. I have created one object for it, then s.sum. So 90 comma 95. So 90 comma 95. So m1 has the value 90 and m2 has the value 95. So now self dot m1 is equal to 90, self dot double underscore is equal to m2. So mark 1 is equal to, so mark 1 is equal to 90 and double underscore. So this m2 is within this class. Okay. So this function is within this class. So we are accessing this variable within the class. The print statement is also within the function is within the class. So it will get access. So though it is a private member, it will get access within the class. So it will have the value mark 2 is equal to 95. Okay. So next it will have the next, what is the statement? Outside the class. So outside the class. Okay, so for outside the class I will be having print mark 1 is equal to, so mark 1 is equal to 90. S, so a student I have created an object, so s dot m1 will be having the 90, but s dot m2 double underscore m2, it is a private variable, but it is accessed outside the class. Okay, so with the class is get finished. So this is outside these statements are outside the class. So we cannot access the private variable because we have declared m2 as a private variable. So it cannot be accessed outside the class. So here you will be having one error. Okay. So only mark 1 will be accessed because it is we have declared that only as a public variable. Okay. So if you want to declare anything as a private variable, then you have to give 2 underscore before that variable. Clear? So today we have seen constructor, destructor, private and public variable. How within the class a variable can be public and private and how we can access it. Okay. So if you declare a variable as a private, that variable has the scope only within that class. So outside the class, if you try to access that variable, it will not recognize it and it will show error. Clear? So constructor is handled with the function init and destructor is handled with the help of the function del. So before that we have to give 2 double underscore and after that you have to give 2 underscore. Okay. So you know the how to create a constructor and how to create a destructor. When they two are not called explicitly, they are automatically called when you create or when you come out of the scope of the class. Clear, students? So I think you are clear with this. Thank you.